What's going on, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Rock Rehab RC. I'm pretty excited to bring this little time lapse to you. This is a time lapse of turning the K10 High Trail into a Tarantula. Now, I've had a ton of fun with my K10. It's very capable with very few upgrades. I haven't had my High Trail for very long, but with Riley having his Mias Ripper, I kind of wanted something that would compete with that a little bit better. The High Trail was doing great, fantastic, but I just kind of wanted it to be a little bit more. So I went ahead and jumped on Amazon, and I grabbed this Tarantula. It was $32. It's a really great kit if you want to jump into the next step away from the TRX 4Ms. This is a great way to kind of change it up a little bit, turn it into a whole nother monster. One thing I did notice about putting this chassis together is these fine thread screws strip out really easily. That's one thing that I did notice about the Ripper, was on the Ripper they've got a little bit more of a coarse thread Phillips head screws. Now, I don't necessarily prefer the Phillips head, but I do think a coarser screw would fit this better and help it hold together and not strip out as easy. But as long as you're careful and you kind of take your time, it goes together really well. I didn't really have any clearance issues. Everything went together quite nicely. The closest thing to a clearance issue you see is where the chassis sides screw into the shock mounts. There's a little bit of a gap that you kind of got to pull together with the screws. Again, not a big deal, but that was the only kind of clearance issue. You can see right there, there's kind of that gap there. But it pulls together just fine. Now, here with my K10, I'm going to start taking it apart. And as you can see, I got a lot of different upgraded parts on it, so it was doing quite well, but it was just time to change it up. Now you'll see on this, I wanted to do this as simple as I could. I thought I was going to have to take every little piece apart, take all the links off, and put it together piece by piece. But as I started taking the battery tray out, everything looked like I could keep the entire drivetrain together and just kind of slip it off of the frame and then into the Tarantula. So that's my goal here, is to try to do that. Just pulling the skid plate off. You know, I gotta worry about taking and trying to remember wherever all these screws go. It really doesn't matter. Now, right here, you don't have to take off the shock mounts and stuff to get your wiring out. I just didn't want to cut all my wiring apart. So I just figured I'd pull that apart, slip it over the end of it. And as you could see, all the drivetrain stays together. The frame was really easy to pull off. You don't got to disconnect the bottom links, it's just the top links. And then that new chassis just slips right over everything. Super easy to get it hooked back together. Just pretty much just the 4 top links and it's in. But what I'm going to see here in just a minute is where my ESC is mounted isn't going to clear the hood. So that is going to have to get moved. But I thought about putting springs on this, and I did end up trying it after it was all together. These 65mm shocks that I got, I really liked the length of them, and not running springs on the High Trail. They did fantastic. I didn't like how long they were with springs on the Ripper. It just really made it sit too tall. I really wanted to keep that center of gravity down. So keeping the springs off, I did lose a little bit of ground clearance, but it wasn't bad at all. I was pretty impressed at how quickly this came together. Now, if you have a brass skid plate, if you'll notice on the back of it, right below where my ESC is right there, there is 2 screw holes that go straight down. I use that to build a little plate that my ESC can Velcro to. That's one of the downsides that I did notice in this was they don't give you a place to put your electronics. That they leave that up to you. But it's pretty simple to do. There's plenty of room behind the transmission, as you can see right there. I'm going to build a little plate and I'll put pictures of all that stuff in there. I'll pop it up right here in the corner. The shocks, of course, with giant hands, those little tiny screws, they can be a pain to get in sometimes. But there we go, we got it in there. So it's pretty much together. I mean, you want to make sure that the long screws that it comes with go up front and then the short ones go in the back. And the reason for that is you want to be able to set your battery in that battery tray. They give you Velcro, works great. That's where my battery ended up staying. It does put a little bit more weight out in the back, but it's not that big of a deal. Now this is the version 2 chassis that Endura put out. The first version, you'll see in a minute, comes with a flat hood with a little tiny hood scoop. Personally, I think that looks better, but you got to have clearance for your servo. I was talking to some people on a forum online, and they said that this didn't completely clear the issue with the servos. However, I have an Endura 7 kilogram servo, and I didn't have any clearance issues at all. And you'll see here in just a minute when I pull the other body panels off that new hood that it comes with versus the old one. This light bar, really bright. It's awesome. I love it. Plugs right in. And then I did end up cutting the video a little bit short. I didn't realize the camera turned off, so it's going to cut out. But I will post pictures at the end of this video showing what it looks like completed. And then there will be a test video coming out next weekend that I am going to show what the performance differences are from not changing any of the upgrades, not adding anything, just taking the drivetrain out of the K10 and putting it straight over to a Tarantula. And I hope it does really good. Haven't made that video yet, so can't be certain. I think it's going to be awesome. But thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this helps you decide whether you want to take your TRX-4M and turn it into a Tarantula. Thanks for watching.